They ordered him to remain invisible until the princess watched him sign her name and wept. Beginning. The first rule of the Terran delegation was simple: do not draw attention to yourself. I had heard it repeated so many times that it rattled in my head like a mantra. Captain Elias Venn, a soldier-turned-interpreter, was not supposed to speak unless spoken to. He wasn't supposed to move without instruction, wasn't supposed to meet the eyes of royalty, and above all else, wasn't supposed to forget that humans were still newcomers, barely tolerated in the galactic Concord. We had fought too many wars to earn trust easily. The Concord's members looked at us as though we were crude iron in a hall of crystal. Necessary, perhaps, but unrefined, unworthy of true respect. That was why I had been chosen, not for my strength or medals, though I had both, but for my hands, my skill in signing. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, not all communication was spoken aloud, and I was one of the few soldiers who had studied alien gestural languages. The Thyralians were unlike any race I had seen. Tall and willowy, their flesh shimmered faintly like moonlight through water, and their eyes, black, deep, unreadable, seemed to drink in the world. They ruled their sector with elegance and cruelty, depending on who you asked, and their crown jewel, their pride, was Princess Eurasia. When I first saw her, I understood why poets wasted ink on her name. Her presence was commanding but fragile, like a song sung in the middle of a storm. Yet there was something unusual about her. Something hidden. Whispers in the palace hinted at it. The princess did not speak, they said. She did not hear the world as others did. And so she was guarded, protected, even pitted, though never in public, for to pity the bloodline of the Empress was sacrilege. I had been told, in no uncertain terms, that my role was to remain invisible, to observe, to translate only when ordered, and to never, never interact directly with the royal heir. I thought I could obey. I had survived wars by following orders. But fate is cruel to men who think they can stay small. Middle. It happened during the third week of negotiations. Our delegation stood in the echoing crystal hall, the Empress on her throne, her court arrayed like a gallery of living statues. I stayed near the rear, silent, the weight of armor familiar on my shoulders. My job was to watch the flicker of hands, the subtle curl of claws, the brush of fingers against forearms, the silent language the Thyralians used when words failed. And then I saw her. The princess entered the hall quietly, flanked by guards. She moved with grace, but her eyes drifted, not toward the delegates, not toward her mother, but across the endless floor as though searching for something that was always out of reach. She sat apart, hands folded, her lips unmoving. And when the court erupted into murmured debate, when words clashed like blades, she only sat in stillness, her gaze flicking from speaker to speaker. It struck me then. The rumors were true. She was deaf to the noise of her own people. But her hands twitched. Just slightly. A movement too small for anyone else to notice. But to me, a man trained in the subtle art of sign, it was as loud as a shout. She was signing. Alone. Unanswered. It was a fragment of a name. Her name. Eurasia. My heart hammered. Every rule screamed at me to stay still, to remain unseen. But something inside me, a soldier's instinct, a human stubborn compassion, moved my hands before my mind could stop them. I signed back. Eurasia. The princess froze. Her black eyes widened, shimmering with something raw and unguarded. Then, like dawn breaking, her lips parted, not to speak, but to smile. Her fingers moved swiftly, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. She asked my name. Elias, I signed. For the first time in years, someone had spoken her language. And then the hall noticed. The Empress's advisors hissed. Guards shifted, hands tightening on weapons. A human soldier had dared break protocol, dared address the heir directly. Captain Elias Venn, the Chancellor thundered, you were ordered to remain silent. Invisible. I felt my stomach turn to stone. I was already dead. A single gesture could be called treason. But before the guards could seize me, before the Empress could raise her hand, the princess moved. She stood. She crossed the floor in silence, every step echoing like thunder in the sudden hush. And in front of the entire court, she reached for me. Her hands rose, delicate and trembling, and she signed my name again. Elias. And then, with her face lifted to her mother's throne, she signed something else. Father. The hall gasped. 1,000 years of etiquette shattered in a single gesture. The Empress, unshakable, eternal, closed her eyes. And when she opened them again, they glistened with tears. For the first time in living memory, the Empress of the Thyralians wept. Conflict. The storm that followed nearly tore the palace apart. I was dragged to a private chamber, interrogated for hours. Why had I spoken to her? How did I know her signs? What spell had I cast on the air? But no matter what I said, no matter how much I swore it had been instinct, chance, humanity, the truth could not be denied. The princess had chosen me. She had named me with a gesture none could erase. And her mother's tears had sealed it. The court was divided. Some saw me as a blessing of fate, a bridge between species. Others whispered that I was a contagion, a human trick that would corrupt the bloodline. The princess, however, clung to me. She sought me out in every chamber, ignoring her attendants, demanding my presence. And when she signed to me, her hands told stories I could never have imagined, stories of loneliness, of silence, of being caged inside herself even as the galaxy bowed before her. In her, I saw not a symbol, not a princess, but a young woman aching to be seen. And in me, she found the one person who could. But the danger grew. Nobles plotted to separate us, to have me quietly removed. Generals argued that humanity would use this bond to claim influence. Whispers of assassination spread like smoke. I had survived wars, but this was a new battlefield, one fought with symbols and gestures, with politics and prophecy. And at its heart was a girl who had called me father. Climax. The coup struck during the Festival of Stars. The Empress, the princess, and the court gathered under the vaulted dome as a million lights shimmered across the crystalline ceiling. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, of unity. Instead, assassins moved among the guards. The first shot was aimed not at the Empress, but at her daughter. I saw the glint of the weapon, the flick of a trigger. Instinct overrode thought. I leapt, dragging the princess down, the blast searing past where her heart had been. Chaos erupted. Blades clashed, screams echoed. I fought with the desperate fury of a man who had nothing left to lose. My blade was crude compared to theirs, but rage honed it sharper than steel. I bled, I burned, but I did not fall, because behind me, trembling, the princess clung to life. And when the dust settled, when the assassins lay broken and the hall quaked with silence, she crawled forward. Her small hands rose, shaking, and she signed not just my name, Elias, but another word, Father.